Welcome to Frank Islam's show. I'm your host, Frank Islam. Our guest today is Maryland State Delegate Aruna Miller. The issues she has championed in the State House include protection of children, environment, and promotion of public safety. It is an honor to have you on our show.
Likewise.
Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
We can all learn from India's election. It just occurred not too long ago. Both of us have shared heritage and shared history. 76% of the Indian voted in the election. In our case, our participation in the general election is about 38%. In the midterm election is about 22%. What are we doing wrong?
I think one of the things that's inherently the problem in our country, in the United States, is many people are materialistically comfortable. And I think when they are, they don't feel the need to be as engaged. And the problem with that thought process is our country didn't get to this point without people being engaged and making sure there are policies there that give opportunities and economic growth for our country and social justice and all of these things. And as we move forward, if we get too complacent and too comfortable in our lifestyle, these rights are going to be taken away by folks who will be very interested in what happens to our lives and may not have your vested interests. And so I think that's the difference. Whereas in India, 1.2 billion people.
766 million people voted.
Exactly.
And their population is not very educated.
Exactly.
So that says something about India's democracy. So India has the largest democracy. Our country has the oldest democracy. So let's just shift the gear, talk about a little bit about your district, 15th and Montgomery County.
Sure.
This has substantial Asian American populations. Also, you serve on the House Ways and Means Committee and also Education Committee and the Transportation Committee. What exactly are you doing through this committee to help, not necessarily Asian American population, but the population in general that the district that you represent in Montgomery County?
You raise a good point, Frank. Absolutely. When I serve the people of Maryland, I'm not just looking at the Indian American or Asian American. I'm
You're
looking
representing
at all,
the whole
everybody.
county in that
That's
district,
right.
regardless of who they are.
Right. So one of the things that we look at in the Ways and Means is how can we improve the economy for the state of Maryland? Because the number one way to help people of Maryland is to create jobs. With jobs, you create opportunities, you create freedom, you create a larger tax base, which can pay for the shared priorities that all Marylanders have, from transportation to education to health care to public safety. These are all things that we all benefit from when we all pool our money together, and that's what taxes pay for. So that's what primarily what the Ways and Means looks at. How can we generate revenue for the state of Maryland that we can benefit from all of us being able to utilize it? With transportation, as you know, this past session we were able to inject over $4 billion in the next 6 years to transportation infrastructure. That is critical to the state of Maryland. Montgomery County in particular is the economic engine for Maryland. And where that economic engine starts, transportation. Businesses tell us over and over again, if they want to move here or expand their business, they want to make sure that there is that infrastructure in place. They don't want their employees stuck in traffic.
Of course
we
not.
don't want them stuck in traffic.
Especially in Beltway, right?
Exactly. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for quality of life. So we deal with that. And the public school education policy.
Tell me a little bit about I have a lot of interest in pre-K educations.
Sure.
So what exactly you doing in terms of pre-K education? That is very important because that lays the foundation for the kids to flourish.
Absolutely. This year, we have expanded pre-K education, and we put in $6 million in order to expand it for, I believe, around 1,200 students. And the idea is the more we bring in children at an earlier age to education, the more likely they're going to benefit and have greater opportunities, finish their high school education, and hopefully go on to better jobs.
So we can reduce the high school dropout.
Absolutely.
Which is increasing substantially in this county.
Absolutely. But we got to do it incrementally.
Exactly.
What I've learned being a legislator in Annapolis, nothing happens overnight. It takes small, thoughtful, meaningful steps to reach the goal that you ultimately are looking for. And pre-K is one of those areas that every year I think we're going to go forward and invest more money into that and expand that opportunity of pre-K to more and more children in the
So
state
that's
of
the
Maryland.
constructive way of approaching pre-K and the K through 12 educations, correct?
Right.
What about the community colleges? I mean, do you think that that's important to our country in terms of making education more affordable, accessible?
Absolutely. I think,
And especially Montgomery College, which is in your district.
right, absolutely. And Montgomery College has been a great institution, not only in Montgomery County, but the kids that graduate from there or coming out of there going to Maryland, getting jobs. These are kids that may not necessarily can afford regular universities. So it gives them that bridge to be able to pursue their
Not
dreams.
everybody can go to college or universities,
Yes.
and they're creating a 21st century workforce. So, and they're also partnering with the industry. So they're creating the course and curriculum to make sure they match the requirements of the industry which will be hiring these students. That's a great
Absolutely.
program.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
I want to kind of shift the gears, and we mentioned about you're Indian Americans, and there are several Indian American delegates, and also the Deputy Secretary of State, and so on and so forth. So why this community has so much political participation in the state of Maryland, not any other states? So what's the secret here?
Well, I think one of the secrets here is we have a highly educated population here. In fact, Maryland per capita has the highest percentage of engineers and PhDs, many of which are immigrants, many of which are Indian Americans. So I think we do have a very engaged
Robust,
Indian American
vibrant.
population here. And as a result of that,
So you need to tap upon those resources and harness those resources.
absolutely. And I think also we are honored to have Delegate Kumar Barve, who was the first Indian American state legislator and got elected in 1990. So you could say Delegate Barve paved the way for the rest of us to be able to have these wonderful
It also says
opportunities.
about America's inclusiveness and openness. These are
Yes.
the strengths and the values and the quality that all of us can proudly and truly embrace. And something like your story and my story can only happen in America, as President Obama said many, many times. Do you subscribe to that notion?
Better believe it, Frank. One of the reasons I like to serve the people of Maryland is because I want to share that American dream.
Right.
Like you, I came here as an immigrant, didn't know a word of English. I think you knew a little bit more than me when you came here. But only in America can dreams like this come true. We come here as immigrants. Now here we are serving our people,
Our country,
our
nation.
country, our state, our community. And I want to make sure that this American dream is available to everyone, from immigrants to people who are already citizens to any individual that's here.
As President Aruna called America is a shining city upon a hill. In the 1632 on a ship Arabella, John Winthrop said, America is a city on a hill. You must always consider all the eyes are upon you. But that shining city upon a hill has slipped into the shadow. So how do we revitalize, retransform America and American dream?
Well, I think one of the ways that we need to take a look at it is, again, looking at the economy.
We need to create jobs.
Educate,
We need to find the
education
opportunities.
and jobs. You know, we need to move away from the 20th century approach to things and move into the 21st century. In the 20th century, people like leaders and entrepreneurs like Carnegie, they realized we were moving from an agricultural
Economy.
to an industrial
To economy.
economy. Well, we are now in the information age.
Right.
We need to create, you know, students and people that are coming out, graduating from colleges that are innovative, that are entrepreneurs, much
And
like
they're
you.
creative, yeah.
Yes, that are creative, that are going to create jobs of the 21st century economy. That's where America needs to compete.
Great.
We're no longer competing just within the state. It's
Your global
global
economy.
Right.
We'll continue the dialogue after the break. We'll take a minute break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show. The Maryland state has tried to cultivate excellent relationship with India. Governor O'Malley, not too long ago, led a business delegation to India. In fact, you accompanied the governor, and there are a lot of people who played a very significant role. Where do you think the relationship in terms of business stands? Where is it going, and what's going to happen? Please shed some light on that.
Well, Frank, the fact that India just got done with a major election and elected a whole new party and a prime minister that is very pro-economic growth,
Pro-business also.
pro-business, I think will be a good thing for India and the relationship with the United States. Now, I know in the past, this individual has had some differences with the United States.
He's a polarized figure.
Yes, he is. He is a very polarizing figure, but apparently he's very charismatic in India.
He is.
Swept
Well, there's
the
a lot of
whole
high
election.
hopes and high expectations
Yes.
to turn around the economy, and I hope he does that. So you'll continue the dialogue in terms of cultivating that relationship between the state of Maryland and India.
Absolutely. As a
And as a matter of fact, you're going. Tell us a little bit about the next trip to India.
Right.
And where are you going and what's going to happen?
Yes. So the next trip to India is by our own county executive, Delegate.
Yes.
And he does see the important role that India plays here in the state of Maryland and in Montgomery County. So we're planning on going on a trip in November 2014. It'll be a trade mission as well as a sister city initiative that will take place in India.
Good. And hopefully you'll be able to cultivate a relationship in terms of having some trade as well as getting some business in the United States.
We're already working on that. We have a
Good.
businessman in India who is very much interested in doing business in the state of Maryland. So we hope to bring that to fruition.
Okay. So you're on the board of Montgomery County Public Schools, and we talked a little bit about the Montgomery County and the Public School Educational Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that foundation.
It is a wonderful foundation where we award scholarships to need-based students. Again, these are oftentimes students who are the first in their family
So the
to attend
foundation
college.
is funded by individuals, donors?
Individual donors as well as myself and other legislators, because every legislator is given a certain amount of funds to be able to allocate scholarship to their residents in their district, to students. So my entire funding allocation I give to the Educational Foundation. And because I believe it's better to have a third party dispense those type of funds as opposed to me having the direct contact with the individuals. So this is how the funds are raised. And
How much money do you have in these foundations, and how many scholarship programs do you provide to the students?
I think over the course of years, it's been well over several $1 million
Okay,
that
well,
they've
so
allocated.
it's fairly healthy.
It is.
And so from that earning, you're providing scholarship to the students. Am I correct to assume that?
Absolutely. And
So
again,
you-
it's needs-based.
It's a needs base.
Needs-based.
The people who have financial hardship.
Yeah,
That's a
so-
noble cause in terms of creating a next generations.
It's a great cause.
As I understand, you were born in Hyderabad, and you came here when you was young, 8 years old. So tell us a little bit for your journey. From India to America, you crossed the Atlantic Ocean with your parents
Yes.
to realize and to attain the American dream. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, again, my father came here as an engineer and worked for IBM in the 1960s when the whole space age was taking off. Eventually, he brought each of us little by little to the United States because he couldn't afford to bring all of us here. And because of my parents' hard work, their commitment, their willingness to see something that's not short-sighted but a long-term goal where they wanted to provide for their children, my siblings and I benefited tremendously.
And how many siblings you have?
I have an older brother and an older sister.
Very good. So you're only 3 of you.
Yes.
It's not a very large
No, it
family.
isn't. I know you're from a much larger family.
Yeah, I am. I am.
Yeah, and I wish I had more siblings.
That's
but-
all right. All right. You have been dealt a card. You got to figure out how to play the cards.
Right. So I have to tell you, Frank, that I've benefited tremendously by things that past generations have done for people. Like I went to public schools, I went to a state university. These are all things past generations worked to happen so I can achieve my dreams. And I couldn't think of a greater way to give back to my country and my state than through public service.
Very
and
well
that's what
said.
I've committed.
So you're willing to share and give back to our
Yes.
country, to our community, by serving in the public arena as you're doing it at the State of the Maryland Delegate.
That's my way, but I think there's lots of ways people can give back.
And as I understand, when you went with Governor O'Malley
Yes.
for the delegations to India, you also went to your birthplace for Hyderabad. So what was it like?
Very profound experience.
Very emotional?
Very emotional. Here was a country that I was born in, and here was a country that adopted me, the United States. And to be able to bring the two
So
together.
this is your adopted country, United States.
Absolutely.
And that's the native country where you were born,
That's right.
country of birth.
Yeah. The United States embraced me and gave me every opportunities that I could achieve. And I'm grateful for that. And it was a very profound moment for me to have the two come together.
Well, I want to shift the gears a little bit about the fact that the members of the Congress and the senators, they all get paid when they serve. And they have a full-time job. But your job is not a full-time.
No, it isn't.
And your experience, as I understand, you're a transportation person, so you work in the county. So how do you balance working part-time to be a member of the House of Delegates and then also working full-time?
It's challenging at times.
It is a challenging.
It is challenging.
And you are in Annapolis for a certain amount of time.
That's right. We're there for 90 days.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think the forefathers had it right. This is a citizen legislature. That means that anybody can get elected and be there, whether you're a fireman, a teacher, an entrepreneur, or an engineer like myself, or a housewife. It could be anyone. If we made it full-time, then I think it would be career politicians. The idea is when it's a citizen legislature, we're there and we come back to our districts so we can have that closer interface with our citizens to really understand the needs of our community.
So how many days do you spend in Annapolis, which is the state capital for the state of Maryland? So I just want to make sure that the audience knew about it. So how many days do you spend there when the legislation or the state assembly is in session?
It's 90 days every year.
90 days.
90
And
days.
you don't get paid anything?
Well, I take a leave of absence from my job, but the General Assembly does pay delegates and the state senators for that
right?
90 days, yeah.
And you work as a transportation
Engineer. Yeah.
engineer, working for the county.
That's right.
So how did that experience help you in being a member of the transportation subcommittee in the state of Maryland?
Well, I think it's very beneficial. We have 141 delegates there. 2 of them are engineers, myself and 1 other individual. So I think with our background, we bring a whole new perspective and experience that other delegates may not be able to do so. And transportation is a huge issue in the state of Maryland. And I think you need to have people that have that expertise and background.
As you know, that the state of Virginia does a very well in cultivating relationship with the business communities and a lot of business over there because of the taxes and so on and so forth. And there are many other reasons behind it.
Sure.
What the state of Maryland is doing to make sure that we can attract and retain the business?
I think that moving forward in the next legislature, Frank, that's one of the #1 things we're focusing on.
I would hope that when the new governor is sworn in, this should be a top priority. How do we attract and retain the new businesses?
Absolutely. We've already started looking at it. The Speaker,
Coming up with incentives and so on and so forth, right?
Absolutely. Speaker Bush created a group called the Business Climate Work Group. He picked 10 delegates in the House of Delegates to serve. I happen to be one of them. And during the course of a year, we met with business leaders and we asked them.
And you heard from them.
We heard from them and they told us what they would like to see. Transportation infrastructure. Right. They want to be able to have a better, consistent tax policy, right?
What about education?
Education, yes.
And what about all these rules and regulations the county has?
Yes. Streamlining and modernizing the regulatory process.
Okay.
When I asked them of those, what is the most important? Is it tax policy or the regulation? Streamlining the regulations. Hands down, they said that was the most important.
Okay.
And that's what I plan to do moving forward, working on that.
And that will make a state of Maryland a place to do business with, and I think your sign should be outside of your door. We are open for business.
Great idea, Frank. We are.
We are open for business.
Yep,
it's a new beginning, a new era. So, well, thank you very much for coming to our show.
Thank you, Frank.
And appreciated what you're doing for our country, for our community, and thank you for your extraordinary leadership. And I hope you will do well, and also you'll serve our community, and you have done a good job so far. So make sure we get the people to go to voting booths so they can vote. So this is how you participate in the democracy.
Thank you, and thank you for being the icon of the American dream, Frank.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for watching the show. Please join us next week for another edition of the show. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week.